Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to DermaSpark Academy. Today we're going to talk about the new exciting OxyPod, the Blue Spirulina, the hydrated Blue Spirulina. So the Blue Spirulina, we have lots to talk about, and Doron will cover everything. I just want to say that right now we have 6 different products to the OxyGeneo. We have the new Revive Neo Bright, the traditional products that we had since day one. And of course, it evolved and will evolve. This is something that is changing upon changing regulations in different places in the world and in Canada. And the family, the OxyPod family that first was introduced in 2019, in the summer of 2019, just got a new member, and this is the Hydrate. So in the OxyPod family today, we have the Balance, we have the Revive, we have the vitamin C. Just a minute, what do I miss? The Illuminate, I'm sorry. We have the, which is the vitamin C. We have the Balance, Revive, Illuminate, and we have a new member to the family. Not the last one, but this is the new member, which is the Hydrate, based on Blue Spirulina. And Doron, you are most welcome to take over from here. Just a minute. We will, one more word, one more thing. We are going to try to keep it short, and at the end, we are going to open the mic or the chat so you guys can ask questions. If there are questions that we are not able to address in this session, you know exactly where to get hold of us. The phone numbers, you have your expert all around the nation. You are most welcome to call us at any time. We will be very happy to address any question. Doron, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Moshe. Let me just get my mic on and my video. Moshe, can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, perfect. So thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you all of you that joined us today to talk about the new OxyGeneo Hydrate, the Blue Spirulina facial. We are very, very excited to introduce it to you today formally. So yes, Moshe said that we will keep it short. I will do my best to keep it short, but you know, I have so many things to say about it. I will try to manage my time more properly this time. And basically this presentation has 2 parts. First, we're going to have a little bit of discussion about the background behind the OxyGeneo Hydrate, behind the treatment, mainly what are the conditions that it is designed to treat, and how can we do so. So we will dive a little bit into the biology and the physiology of the skin, and then we will dive into the hydrating OxyPod and serum to talk more in depth about the active ingredients that are found in this product. Okay, so yeah, you know us by now. You know that we always like to begin our OxyGeneo presentations with a brief recap to the science of the OxyGeneo, and just to remind ourselves how the core OxyGeneo technology works. And when we talk about the science of the OxyGeneo, we talk about the Bohr effect, first and foremost, which is a physiological response of our body that was first discovered or described by this gentleman, Dr. Christian Bohr, who was a Danish physiologist, who discovered the Bohr effect way back when in 1904, what is it, 117 years ago. And basically, he was the first to describe the mechanism by which our body distributes oxygen to peripheral tissues. In a nutshell, what he found is that the demand for oxygen depends on the concentration of the carbon dioxide that certain tissue generates. So when our tissues are more active metabolically, they generate more carbon dioxide. And then this is the indication for the body to send more oxygen to this tissue in order to keep with the demand, to send them more oxygen so they can keep them, they maintain their activity. So in a nutshell, the Bohr effect says that when we have high concentration of carbon dioxide, the body sends oxygen from the inside, from within the body with red blood cells, with the hemoglobin, to the tissue where the oxygen is released and the carbon dioxide is removed with the red blood cells and out from the body through the lung, through the respiratory system. And this is how the body basically balances its oxygen levels. And this is exactly the mechanism, the natural oxygenation mechanism that we harness with the OxyGeneo when we do the treatment. We are temporarily increasing the concentration of the CO2 on the face in order to trigger the Bohr effect and to bring oxygen to the skin from inside the body, which is much more effective than any other modality that tries to blow oxygen from the outside. So this is the unique mode of oxygenation that is done by the Bohr effect with the natural oxygenation mechanism of the body. And then we also have the exfoliation and the nourishment. This is the 3-in-1 action of the OxyGeneo. We begin with the exfoliation of the stratum corneum. When we go with the pod, with the OxyPod or with the capsule on top of the skin, we are removing dead cells. We are opening the pores. We are basically preparing the skin to absorb active ingredients. And at the same time, we are also the reaction between the OxyPod and the gel and the treatment gel generates the abundance of CO2 that is required for the Bohr effect. So we are exfoliating, increasing the concentration of CO2, and this immediately followed by the Bohr effect and the natural skin oxygenation. So the body sends oxygen to the skin to replace the carbon dioxide, and then the cells remain oxygenated and they can continue to remain metabolically active. So we are exfoliating, oxygenating, and at the same time we are also nourishing the skin with all the active ingredients and the nutrients, the vitamins that we have in the serums and in the OxyPods. Okay, so this is just a quick reminder to the 3-in-1 action of the OxyGeneo. And this is, well, the core technology that we had with the OxyGeneo since day one. And as Moshe said, more recently in the summer of 2019, we launched the next generation of OxyGeneo treatments, which are based on the OxyPod technology. And again, a very quick reminder to the OxyPod technology. I will remind you that this technology is mostly about the way that we bring active ingredients to the skin. So what we do with the OxyPod technology is to take the pure active ingredients as they come from the manufacturer, and we simply wrap them together with other active ingredients into these pods, the OxyPods that you see here. So essentially, each OxyPod is packed with a mixture of pure active ingredients in their solid, dormant state. Those ingredients are powdered in solid state and they remain dormant up until the moment of the treatment. Only when we take those OxyPods and we combine them with the primer gel on the skin of the client, when we begin the treatment, only then the ingredients become active. And so in a nutshell, the OxyPod technology allows us to formulate the product in real time on the skin of the client, which means that the active ingredients are as fresh as they can be. They are as stable as they can be because they are kept dormant up until the moment of the treatment. And eventually what we get is a peak performance from our active ingredients. They perform much more effectively when they are kept dormant and only activated when the treatment starts. In addition to that, it allows us to take out any preservatives from the OxyPods. There are absolutely no preservatives in the OxyPods, again, because everything is kept dormant in a powder condition. So this is, in a nutshell, the OxyPod technology. And as Moshe said, the OxyPod family is now expanding, and we are very excited to announce the newest member of the OxyPod, and this is, of course, the Hydrate with the Blue Spirulina. So up until today, we had those 3 OxyPods. We had the Revive, the Balance, and the Illuminate. The Revive, this is our red algae facial for anti-aging and wrinkle reduction treatments. We have the Balance with activated bamboo charcoal for oily and acne-prone skin types. And we have the Illuminate vitamin C and kojic acid facial for skin brightening and pigmentation. And the latest member, of course, this is the Hydrate, the Blue Spirulina facial, which, as you probably guessed, this is a treatment that is designed for dry and dehydrated skin, hence the name Hydrate. And skin dryness, as you all know, this is a very, very common problem, especially here in Canada during winter time. I dare to say that every one of us is experiencing skin dryness to some extent during winter times and also other times of the year. So next, what I would like to do is to dive a little bit deeper into these conditions: dry skin, dehydrated skin. We will talk about what are the similarities and the differences between these two distinct conditions, and what do we need to do in order to effectively treat these conditions. Okay. So let's start with a little bit of dry skin terminology, and I put this slide here because I think that there is a little bit of confusion, let's put it this way, especially from clients that come to the clinic. There is a little bit of confusion between dry skin and dehydrated skin, so I would like to shed more light into that. The term dry skin, as you probably know, can describe two distinct conditions. On the one hand, we can talk about dry skin as a skin type, and then we are describing a skin that is lacking surface lipids and sebum. Or we can talk about dry skin as a temporary skin condition, and then basically we are describing skin dehydration, skin that is lacking water and is experiencing transepidermal water loss, and this is usually a temporary condition that gets more intense during winter times. I think that one of the causes for the confusion that people have between dry skin as a skin type and skin dehydration is because of the way that the skin feels. In both conditions, the skin feels kind of the same. It feels very dry, sensitive, irritated, dull. Usually there is also some sort of inflammation that is involved, which makes it a little bit more confusing. And from a clinical perspective, in both conditions, we see that the skin barrier function is compromised. And this is just a spoiler alert. I will tell you that in order to effectively treat dry skin and dehydrated skin, we have to repair the skin barrier first. And this is something that I will elaborate more very, very shortly. Don't worry. Okay. In addition, factors that aggravate skin dryness in dry and dehydrated skin include low humidity environment, like we have here in Canada during winter times. We lose the moisture of the skin to the atmosphere. UV damage, of course, that creates oxidative stress, and all kinds of harsh soaps and scrubs and skincare that we use that can harm the skin barrier function. Of course, that the natural aging process of the skin deteriorates this condition, aggravates these conditions over time. All kinds of underlying medical conditions, side effect to medications, genetics, and more. So what we see is that we have two distinct conditions that share some similarities. And what I would like to do now is to talk a little bit more about the differences, not the similarities, also the similarities between dry and dehydrated skin. Okay, so let's have a little comparison, dry versus dehydrated skin. And we begin with dry skin that describes a skin type, like oily skin, normal skin combination. We also have dry skin, of course, and then we are talking about skin that is lacking sebum. And here, usually the genetic factor is dominant. People are born with this predisposition. They have fewer sebaceous glands, or their glands are much less active, and then they don't produce enough sebum to cover the surface of the skin. And then the skin is dry all over, not just on the face, also on the hands, on the scalp, on the neck, on the hands, on the arms, and pretty much any body part that is more exposed and will be dry, will get dry more easily. And this is, I wouldn't say chronic, maybe it's a chronic condition, but it's a year-round condition for sure. It's it's an ongoing condition, which of course gets worse during winter times. Now, dry skin can also easily become dehydrated, and in the next slide I will explain how. And people with dry skin types require constant moisturizing on a daily basis with oil-rich skincare. So things like argan oil, jojoba oil, or shea butters, all these kind of ingredients that can compensate for the lack of sebum that the body doesn't produce, and they can keep the skin barrier function intact for a long period of time if we are applying them on a daily basis. Okay, so this is dry skin as a skin type, and we also have dehydrated skin, that this is a temporary skin condition that describes skin that is lacking water. We are losing water through transepidermal water loss, and this is usually something that is aggravated by environment and lifestyle factors. This is a seasonal condition. It gets much worse during winter time. People with dehydrated skin during winter will not necessarily have dehydrated skin during summer times. It affects all skin types, and of course that the skin can be both oily and dehydrated. And then people with oily and dehydrated skin are much more susceptible to breakouts because the sebaceous glands try to compensate for the lack of water. They generate more sebum, and this increases the risk of congestion, and we get more breakouts. And people with dehydrated skin, generally speaking, they need water-based skincare to replenish the water content in their skin. All right, so this is in a nutshell a very brief comparison between dry and dehydrated skin. What is the difference between them? What is similar is, again, the way that the skin feels. It feels dry, irritated, itchy, dull, tight, flaky. Usually it is also inflamed to some extent. And again, from a clinical standpoint, the common denominator for dry and dehydrated skin is dysfunctional skin barrier. And this is something that we have to remember when we want to come up with an effective treatment for dry or dehydrated skin. We have to account for the skin barrier. So what I would like to do next is just take a few more moments of your time to talk about the skin barrier function. And why is it so important to keep it healthy and properly functioning, and what can go wrong with it, in these conditions of dry and dehydrated skin. So let's talk about the skin barrier for a few minutes. And I would like to take you back to your school days when you learned about the anatomy of the skin, and we are talking about the skin barrier function, which is of course located in the stratum corneum, the uppermost layer of the skin, of the epidermis, the stratum corneum. This is where the skin barrier is. Now, if you zoom into the skin barrier, you will see that it has a structure that looks like bricks and cements, right? We have layers of cement, and on top of it we have a layer of bricks, and then again cement and bricks, and this is how the skin barrier is structured. Two of the main components of this brick wall, this is of course the corneocytes and the lipids. The corneocytes, these are the cells that have completed their maturization process, their keratinization process. They lost their nuclei, and they are now biologically they are dead. They lost their nuclei. They are not metabolically active anymore. And these are the bricks of the skin barrier. The cement between those in the extracellular space between the bricks, this is actually a soup of lipids. Equal proportions of free fatty acids, cholesterol, and ceramides. These are all those lipids that are found between the corneocytes, the cornified cells that hold everything together. This is the glue, and the lipids also help us to keep hydration in the deeper layers of the skin to prevent. They're crucial for preventing transepidermal water loss. Okay, so we have the bricks, we have the cement, the corneocytes and the lipids. We also have something that is called desmosomes. These are those bridges, connectors, protein connectors between two adjacent corneocytes. This is simply a way for the skin barrier to remain intact and gives extra strength to the structure. So these are the desmosomes. Inside the corneocytes, we have a soup of weak acids that commonly known as the natural moisturizing factors, mostly free amino acids, but really this is a bunch of other ingredients that together work as very, very effective humectant. The natural moisturizing factors, what they do best is to absorb moisture from the atmosphere, keeping our stratum corneum moist, elastic, and plastic, and also allowing all these enzymes that reside in those corneocytes, the desquamation enzymes mostly, to shed dead skin from dead cells from the skin. And I will talk about it in a second. So we have those natural moisturizing factors, and just keep in mind that we relate to the stratum corneum and to the skin barrier as a biologically dead tissue, but from an enzymatic point, this is a very, very active area for enzymes to, that are needed to shed the skin. All right. So we said we have corneocytes, lipid, desmosomes, we have the natural moisturizing factors, and on top of everything, we have the hydrolipid film, the acid mantle that this is, in a way, this is the frosting of the skin. On top of everything, we have the hydrolipid film. This is mainly a combination of a mixture of sebum, sweat, water, all kinds of electrolytes that altogether reduces the pH of the surface to 5.5. So the pH of our skin is slightly acidic, mostly due to this hydrolipid film. And this is what helps to repel all kinds of bacteria, microorganisms from the surface of the skin, because it's simply too acidic for them to reside. And keep in mind that the inner layers of the skin, where the cells are, where we have viable tissue, the pH is around 7.4. So it's slightly basic, and there is quite a difference in the pH levels between the surface and the inner part of the skin. Okay, just a moment, please. All right, so these are the main components of the skin barrier, and what you need to keep in mind is that the skin barrier is a complex of components. It's not just the lipids, it's not just the natural moisturizing factors. This is everything together, working together to repel external stressors from the skin, microorganisms, viruses, all kinds of chemicals, pollutions, and of course, UV radiation are repelled from the skin because of the skin barrier. The lipids of the skin barrier help us to prevent transepidermal water loss. The natural moisturizing factors help to absorb moisture from the atmosphere to keep the stratum corneum plastic, and also to allow those enzymes to function properly and do the desquamation. This is the very final step of the keratinization process, the desquamation. This is the shedding of the dead cells from the very, very top layer of the stratum corneum. So this is what I described to you now is a well-functioning skin barrier. And most of the times unfortunately, this is not the case. We have some degree of damage that is constantly done to the skin barrier. And what can go wrong? Let's say that we have dry skin type. So it means that we don't have enough of this hydrolipid film on top of the skin. And then we are not as effective the skin is not as effectively, cannot effectively repel all these stressors that come from the outside, the UV, the microorganisms, all these chemicals from pollutions, etc. And this allows more UV damage in the lipid, in the extracellular lipid, in the lipid barrier. The lipid barrier starts to break, the desmosomes start to break, and we start seeing more dehydration, more transepidermal water loss. Again, this is just, it's enough to have disturbed hydrolipid film in order to really be more susceptible for skin dehydration. All the other factors that we mentioned earlier, the fact that we lose moisture to the atmosphere during winter time, harsh skincare, genetics, all kinds of diseases, side effects to to medications and the UV radiation. These are all factors that harm the integrity of the skin barrier, and over time bringing the skin into a dehydration mode. And the dehydration mode in turn leads the skin into inflammation, and inflammation in turn has its own array of side effects that really making it very hard for our skin to generate new skin cells and replenish the skin barrier properly. So I think that the right way to describe dry skin really is as a cyclic process that intensifies over time. We always begin with impaired skin barrier for many, many different reasons. The skin barrier is impaired, and this leads to skin dehydration. We lose moisture from the inner layers of the skin much more easily, which leads to inflammation, and inflammation in the epidermal tissue leads to dysfunctional keratinization and desquamation, which in turn leads to even poor condition of the skin barrier. And then the cycle continues, so on and so forth. So we have to find a way, an effective way, to reset the cycle or to break it altogether. And how can we break the dry skin cycle? First and foremost, we have to repair the skin barrier function. And this is something that the OxyGeneo excels in. And in the next slide, I will show you exactly how. But repairing the skin barrier, this is a crucial part of the treatment for dry and dehydrated skin. In addition, we need to supply hydrating and moisturizing ingredients to the skin. And this is something that the new treatment, the Hydrate, is doing best. And we need to maintain the skin barrier function with daily skincare. And if we follow these 3 steps, repairing the skin barrier, supplying hydration and moisturization, and maintaining the skin barrier function on a daily basis, we will be able to postpone this cycle for a long period of time. But at some point, the skin barrier will get compromised again, will be damaged, and then we will have to repeat. Okay, this is not something that we can eliminate forever. At some point it will come back, but then we can simply repeat it and treat it much more effectively. All right, I think this is all I had to say about the dry skin cycle and skin barrier function. So, oh yes, the OxyGeneo and the skin barrier. I mentioned that the OxyGeneo as a modality is a very effective way to repair the skin barrier through its 3-in-1 action. So we have the exfoliation of the damaged skin surface. So what we are basically doing with the exfoliation is turning this skin surface into this. We are removing flaky corneocytes that have not shed. At the same time, we are oxygenating the skin cells by the Bohr effect. And this is something that really helps to normalize the cellular function and to normalize the keratinization process of epidermal cells, of keratinocytes, which is very important for the rebuilding of the skin barrier. And at the same time, we are also nourishing the skin cells with hydrating and moisturizing active ingredients that are found in the new Hydrate OxyPod and SERUM. What I want to say is this. All OxyGeneo treatments will do a very, very good job on repairing the skin barrier because of the exfoliation and the oxygenation. However, the Hydrate treatment will take it to the next step because of the active ingredients that are found in the OxyPod, in the hydrating OxyPod and the SERUM. And this brings us to the second part of the presentation. And now we can take a deep breath and maybe a little bit of water and dive into the active ingredients that we have in the hydrating OxyPod and the hydrating SERUM. So in the OxyPod, the main active ingredient is of course the Blue Spirulina, which I will elaborate more about it in a second. We also have lactobionic acid, niacinamide, and 2 plant extracts with I hope that I pronounce it correctly, Swertia shirata and tiger grass. This is in the OxyPod. In the SERUM, the hero ingredient, in my mind, this is a complex that is known as aquaxyl. Again, more information will follow soon. And we also have anionic polysaccharides, vitamin B5 and E, D-ribose, of course, hyaluronic acid. How can you do without it? Shea butter, jojoba and argan oils, and horsetail and vanilla extracts. And now, as promised, a few words about each and every one of these ingredients to really see how they can help us repair the skin dryness, dry and dehydrated skin. Let's start with the Blue Spirulina. I will be very, very surprised if you never heard of Blue Spirulina. This is a very, very well-known superfood that has been consumed for ages due to a very, very high concentrations of nutrients. Arguably, this is one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. It is very, very rich with antioxidants and high-quality proteins, linolenic acids, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and many, many, many other essential nutrients. This is really, really an acclaimed superfood that been consumed as a supplement for a very long time now. Now, more recently, there have been more and more studies that demonstrated the benefits of this Blue Spirulina, of this cyanobacteria. This is, by the way, this is a form of an algae. If I failed to mention the cyanobacteria, this is an algae, blue-green algae, and it is being demonstrated as an effective skincare ingredient as well. How effective? What was it proven to do? It was proven to repair the skin barrier function, reduce transepidermal water loss, and improve skin hydration. And only these three actions are an indication that the Blue Spirulina, this is a very, very effective active ingredient for dry and dehydrated skins. In addition, it also balances skin oils, promotes synthesis of collagen and hyaluronic acid, prevent oxidative stress due to the high concentrations of antioxidants in it, reduces hyperpigmentation by tyrosinase inhibition, it can promote wound healing, and it has a very and it has some anti-acne properties as well. In a nutshell, the Blue Spirulina is not only a superfood, it is also a super active ingredient that is very, very beneficial, especially beneficial for dry and dehydrated skin. Okay, enough about the Blue Spirulina. More in the OXYPOD, we find lactobionic acid and niacinamide. Lactobionic acid, this is something that is known as polyhydroxy acid, PHA. If you haven't heard of PHAs, these are the next generation of alpha-hydroxy acid, a much less irritated form of the alpha-hydroxy acid. And the lactobionic acid, what it does is to very gently exfoliate the cells from the upper layers of the stratum corneum. It helps shading the cells. It helps with the desquamation. It also helps to retain skin moisture. This is a very effective humectant and also deactivating free radicals. It's also an antioxidant. But keep in mind that this is an hydroxy acid that is relatively larger, so it doesn't really penetrate deep into the skin, into the deeper layer of the skin. It remains more superficial and really, really beneficial or useful for accelerating the desquamation, the shedding of the dead skin. All right, and niacinamide, this is, of course, the active form of vitamin B3. It has numerous skin benefits. And it's also been shown to rebuild and stabilize the lipid barrier, which in turn helps to reduce transepidermal water loss. So this is very, very effective for compromised lipid barrier function. More in the OxyPod, we have the extracts. We have Swelkia cirata. This is a plant that is native to temperate Himalayas, have been used for a millennia to cure a variety of ailments and diseases. As a skincare ingredient, it's being shown to promote healthy keratinization. It makes the epidermis thicker, and it also reinforces the lipid barrier and helps to prevent water loss. We also have the Centella asiatica. I hope that I pronounced it correctly. AKA tiger grass or guto cola or sika. It has many, many names. This is yet another age-old medicinal plant native to the wetlands of Asia, and the active ingredients that are extracted from the tiger grass have been shown to stimulate fibroblasts and keratinocytes and promote synthesis of collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid. So this is an ingredient that has more of an anti-aging and wound healing effect. And the story behind the name tiger grass, now I don't know if this is just a myth or a true story, but apparently people witnessed tigers that rolled in this grass after they had a fight with other tigers and they were all wounded. So they were looking for this grass and then they rolled in it, and supposedly this helped them to heal faster after and to cure their wounds more effectively. So this is where the term or the name tiger grass was coined. All right. Yes. So these were the ingredients of the OxyPods, and now we are moving to the Aquaxyl, which is the hero ingredient of the hydrating serum. The Aquaxyl, as I mentioned, this is a complex of 3 ingredients that work together to optimize the circulation of moisture throughout the skin, both in the dermis and the epidermis, of course. Aquaxyl is powered with a mechanism that is known as the 3D hydration Hydra concepts, which basically means that the ingredients, what they do, they boost the native synthesis of GAGs, including hyaluronic acid, and natural moisturizing factors in the skin, and by doing so, they refill dermal and epidermal water content. So this is one part of the treatment. They also increase synthesis of barrier lipids and prevent transepidermal water loss. They work to reinforce the skin barrier, and they normalize the desquamation and the micro-relief patterns of the skin. So this is this holistic approach to treat not only the skin barrier, but also to refill the water content in the dermis and the epidermis. What you see below, this was taken from a clinical study that was done on cells that were treated with Aquaxyl, and then they did an analysis on the gene expression on these cells, and what they saw is an increase of all these factors after only 24 hours, after one treatment with 0.1% concentration of this ingredient. So very low concentration, and very shortly after the treatment, we see all these genes that are more expressed. So for example, we have an increment of 24% of epidermal hyaluronic acid and 20% of dermal hyaluronic acid, which is quite significant after only 24 hours and only after one application. In addition, we see a 60% increase in the enzymes that are responsible to produce the natural moisturizing factors, and all these enzymes that are responsible, not enzymes, sorry, all these genes that are responsible for tight junction. Tight junction, this is part of 2 cells that connect them together in their membranes, giving extra strength to the skin barrier to prevent transepidermal water loss, and 36% increase in the genes that are responsible for aquaporins. Aquaporins are channels that allow water to flow between cells in the epidermis. This is very, very important for maintaining proper water content in the epidermis. So these are all genes that have to do with the water circulation and retention. In addition, we have all these genes that are responsible for lipid synthesis and protein synthesis, and enzymes that are responsible for the structure of the skin barrier. And you see all these increments in the gene expressions, and then basically, well, this is an indication that this is a very, very effective active ingredient with a very quick action on the cells, only 24 hours after one application. All right, enough said about the Aquaxyl. We have more ingredients in the serum. Of course, that we have the hyaluronic acid, the ultimate skin hydrator that can bind up to 1,000 times its weight in water. Everybody knows hyaluronic acid. I will not say more about it. We also have a complex of anionic polysaccharides. These are natural moisturizing ingredients that have both occlusive and humectant properties. So they reside on the surface of the skin. These are big molecules that do not penetrate too deep. they remain on the surface, and they very effective in absorbing moisture from the atmosphere into the stratum corneum. So especially for people or more mature skin that is lacking natural moisturizing factors, this is a very, very effective ingredient. More in the serum, the oily complex with argan and jojoba oils. These are non-comedogenic oils that are rich with essential fatty acids, minerals, vitamins. This oil complex helps to nourish the skin barrier and lock moisture inside the skin. Especially beneficial for people with dry skin, people that are lacking sebum. The jojoba and argan oils are very, very effective replacements for the sebum, and the benefit of these oils is they are non-comedogenic. They will not cause any more breakouts. Also, we have shea butter, which well, is an acclaimed natural moisturizer with a variety of essential fatty acids that together they reinforce the lipid barrier and prevent transepidermal water loss. Shea butter is also rich with phenolic components that function as antioxidants. So this is not only prevention of transepidermal water loss, this is also an effective way to deactivate free radicals. Okay, more in the serum. We have the horsetail and vanilla extracts that are rich with nutrients, antioxidants, antibacterial, and anti-acne properties. Vitamin B5 that can bind and hold water very, very effectively, moisturizing the skin and helping it maintain softness and elasticity. Now, the vitamin B5 has the added value of acting both as a humectant and emollient, so it absorbs moisture from the atmosphere very effectively. It also helps to keep the surface moist and elastic and plastic to alleviate all these micro relief patterns of the skin. Plant extracts, vitamin B5 and vitamin E. This is a very effective antioxidant, moisturizer. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and it helps to reinforce the skin barrier function. And we also have pure D-ribose, which is the backbone of the ATP molecule. ATP, this is, if you remember from your school days, this is the energy that our cells need in order to perform their metabolic activities. So by boosting the concentration of D-ribose, we are also boosting the ATP production, and this in turn increases cellular energy and respiration and helps our cells to basically remain active and healthy and normal and function properly after the treatment. And I think that this concludes all the active ingredients that we have in the serum. So we talked about skin dehydration, and we talked about dry skin, the differences between them and the similarities, mainly the skin barrier function that is compromised, and what happens to the skin when the skin barrier is compromised, and how it brings us into this dry skin cycle, and how we can effectively treat a dry skin cycle with the OxyGeneo, especially with the hydrating OxyGeneo with all these active ingredients that we just mentioned. And this is it. How long did it took me? Let's see. Okay.
Just about right.
Just about right.
Yes. Thank you very much, Doron.
You are most welcome. Now it's time for questions.
It was profound and educative as always.